Sweetie. There it is. Test, test, test. All right, we got audio. All right, so let's get started. All right, I couldn't figure out the music, so unless you want to play some. Let's go. Let's get everything ready. All right, guys, so today we have my boy here, Adrian. Thank you, Adrian, for allowing us to use you as a model on our channel. Well, we're gonna do a skin fade, low skin fade on Adrian. I'm gonna just kind of spin him around before we get started. This is what we're working on today. As you see, his hair is like grown in, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. He comes every week, so his hair hasn't grown much since last week. But it does grow back. All right, so let me go ahead and start cleaning up all my tools. Guys, I'm trying something different, something new here. Hope you guys appreciate what we're doing here. Just cleaning up everything, getting everything ready. This is self-produced today, so I am producing it as I'm working. Alright, so the first tool we're gonna actually use today, I got the Gold Effects here. So we're gonna go ahead and just kind of like lay down the 1.5 all around. So we're gonna grab the one wall premium clips. I'm gonna start with that. Oh, this one? Yeah, the new clippers. I actually like these a lot. I've been using it for the last 3 days now. Just picked them up this week, and really been liking them. I like how they work, how they cut, how they feel. Overall, a couple little things I probably would have liked a little different. I do really like the snap lever here. It does feel good on the hands though. We're just gonna kind of prep our foundation here, get it going, keeping it really low, because this is pretty much everywhere where I'm gonna work. Anything above this would be to blend into the top, keeping this kind of dark. So I want to contrast it with the bottom by keeping it kind of light. So this is step one, just kind of establish where I will be working today. So then the next step that I'm gonna actually go ahead and do, we have this design here that we already established before. He wants to keep the design, so we're just gonna go ahead and re-outline it. So notice how that I'm going inside of the design, but not touching the long ones. Just keep literally just only on the inside of the design. All right, so now let's go ahead and drop the design in. I'll start off with the top line. Usually how I like to separate it first. I'll go ahead and start there. We're using the Andes T outliner. They have the GTX blade on them. So I already kind of placed the line, and now I'm just gonna outline it a little more so you guys can see it on camera. Then what I like to do is go back with the razor later on and really make it pop. So now we're gonna go down right here. Going down is not too hard. Only thing you gotta be careful with is you are going with the hair. You're going in the same direction, so sometimes I do like to brush over so that hair that tends to comb over or brush over doesn't bother the design later on, so it doesn't overlap it and mess up the look of the design. Same thing over here in the corner. Just going to use the corner of the T outliner to kind of remove any hair that tends to overlap. And with dropping designs, for the most part, you're just dropping the corners. You sketch with the corners. So that's the first initial line of the design. As you guys can see, it's more just like almost like a Z. So the next part, we're gonna bring it in here, and we're gonna do kind of the same thing, but just kind of underneath. But what I do here is instead of just outlining it and going back down and over, that'll make it just like a traced line. I'm gonna bring it up to the same exact point up here. And actually separate the design. So now I'm coming from the top, working my way down. And this just actually helps with cutting the hairs that are from the top line. So it helps cutting that, and it helps sketch out the bottom line. In a design, typically when you're making lines, you have 2 lines per line you make. You have the top of the line and you have the bottom of the same line. So then the same thing here, top line, and then you got the bottom segment of that same line. So you're separating the top hairs from the bottom hairs, and that's how you create a line in the hair. Okay, so that's pretty much the way I would do it. Obviously right now it's still just in the beginning stage of that. So then what I like to do over here, which is the other part of the design, is since he has this curve here, I follow this curve, and from the same exact curve I bust out another line right here. Just something to give it a little something else. Just like so. There you go. So that's like the basic. Now we're gonna go ahead and actually make it pop and add all the other stuff. Now, next step that I like to do is I grab my 16th guard, the half guard, 16th guard, premium guard on the wall. I'm gonna use this clipper a lot today, so guys, just it's still a clipper. Don't look at it like anything else. Oh, if I don't have the Babyliss Gold effects, I can't get that achieved look. Yes, you can. Just use the clipper you got, and we're gonna go ahead with the 16th. Okay, actually, and I'm also switched. I'm gonna go now with the comb. I like to use a comb when fading. So now, always continuing this same forward drop motion here to keep the front darker. Notice I'm not going straight in. I'm going in this angle, and I'm going out this way, because I'm actually gonna do the same thing on this side. When I come in, I'm gonna go like this as well, and going towards the hairline, not up at it, because this will soften up the curve here. He wants to kind of have an outline here. You'll see it in a little bit. So because I know I have to do that, even on this side, I'm gonna do it this way as well. And then from there, just work my way this way. and do my regular fade as I would normally do it on the other side, and do it on this side as well. Guys, if you have any questions or you want to ask about any equipment I'm using, go ahead and just ask. I have my phone here on my station, and I'll be able to read any comments or any questions anybody may have. Okay, so now I have the 16th guard open, kind of fading into that 1.5 we originally used to establish our canvas. So now that that's done, I can actually get rid of the 16th guard. And now closed, clipper closed, I come in and start dropping in the bottom. The last thing I like to do is the skin. Once everything's done and I know where everything's placed, I come and I add the final pop with the shaver. How we looking, Adrian?
Looking good.
See you looking at yourself on the camera, on the screen. Okay, so 16. All right, now the clipper is completely open. I'm just kind of flaring out to blend in. I kind of want to leave some contrast here, some pop, so it really creates some dimension in the haircut and the fade itself. And it also helps blend in from here to over here. Like, you don't want to leave this just at a dark chop like that. I'm actually going to soften that a little as well. Because then what happens if you don't and you try to leave that separation like that, what would happen is by next haircut that he comes back, it's completely disconnected. So you want it to last him until his next haircut as well. Not only the design, but the fade as well. Now using the T outliner. Notice what I'm doing here. Here, I'm coming from the curve, right off the curve of the ear, and I'm going straight out. Because he wants his beard to come to a point. So when it comes to a point, I'm just going to bring that straight out that way, following the natural curve here of the ear. So that way I can just blend into the rest of it. Blend into the shape up that's going to go behind the ear. All this is going to get removed anyways. But it's just a guide to keep me uniform. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So now, using my outliners here, I'm just going to go ahead and establish my skin line. Like I said, it's a low skin, so we're going to keep it nice and low. There you go. I like how we're looking. Now, I'm going to come back. We're going to go right here. I wonder who's here actually. Come on in, come on in. What's going on? Carlos, come on in. I'm actually live streaming. No, you guys are good, you guys are good. You can have a seat there on the chair. Go ahead, go ahead. Alright, so continuing the same process here. We're just gonna go ahead and start blending out this segment here. from this point on, it's really just what we like to call trigger play. You just moving the trigger back and forth, till you get it to where you like. Moving little segments and pieces that might be in my way, or just creating a shadow that I don't like. Nice. All right, so now we're gonna continue moving towards the back now. The back is where I like to put a lot more detail, because I noticed that if you don't put that extra amount of work, for some reason it just doesn't blend out the same. Sides typically are a little easier to blend. So for some reason the back always tends to require a little more attention. Alright. Using the T outliner just to kind of remove the rest of the hair that I didn't remove earlier. Just right there. Okay. So here we go. I'm gonna actually face you guys to this part here. Actually pull the focus here on the camera. Right there. So I'm gonna go about halfway of the clipper. Halfway open or halfway closed. Now I completely opened it and just flaring out into the rest of the haircut. By flaring out, you make your process easier into blending. Less amount of work put into it, but it gives it a nice transitional smooth blend as well. Again, same thing. You're just gonna pretty much trigger things you might not like, or take the time to really just get every hair exactly the way you want it. Trust me, the client would appreciate that later. All that attention to detail is very important. Okay. And we'll come back for this whole bulk area here. I just want to kind of get it going. All this I'm going to remove with the next clipper. So keeping it going here. We're just staying all the way up to the 1.5. From there, everything else we're going to focus on will be with a different guard. So again, close here. This one will be a little harder for my angle, because I'm not trying to be all up in the camera or in front of the camera. But starting off close. And remember what I told you guys here, towards the hairline, towards the front. Keep it, that will allow this to stay darker. Adrian's taking notes. I know he cuts hair too.
Actually, yeah.
He's like, oh,
That's how you do it.
that makes sense.
It's a lot harder though if you do it to yourself.
Oh no, yeah, to yourself would be definitely a lot harder. Adrian here used to cut his own hair forever.
Forever.
Then finally, after all his boys were already coming to me for years, they, he was like, all right, fine, I'll try out your guy. And he hasn't cut his own hair since, right?
Literally, I have not cut my own hair since over a year.
Yeah, it's been about a year now, right?
Over a year.
Over? Dang, that's
Last
time
time
flies.
February or something like that, yeah.
Wow. So yeah. Uh, Or right now, I'm working on open. Remember, I'm just bringing it up to that 1.5. From there, I'm gonna grab the next following clipper or clip. I actually don't know how I'm gonna approach it. I'm gonna see what works. And that's the beauty about cutting hair. So it's all trial and error. As you're going, you go figuring out. Hey, sometimes you might use the same exact clipper you always use, or sometimes you might be like, you know what? Let me try this one here, and that's what makes it an art. So there's many forms. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You just gotta know what you're doing and where you're trying to go with it. Same thing here. We're gonna come down and drop right from the curve further. Excuse me 1 second. Camera turned off. There we go. I think we're back. There we go. And man, that's the thing I don't like about that camera. They turn off
Turns off
after like half an hour. And since I had it on before we even got live, while I was setting everything else up, I forgot. But we're still here. We're still here. All right, so now I'm gonna take that one that I used earlier. We're gonna go ahead and start removing the bulk line that you see there. If we don't do it that way, what happens is a lot of times you can tend to take up the fade. When you're trying to keep it low, it's better to just work like that than to take it up. If you're experienced, if you're not experienced, it's always good to just keep guidelines. There's nothing wrong with it. Keeps your haircut nice and uniformed. I wonder what's going on with this camera. Should have used a different one. I think it's overheating or something maybe. The battery's full. Yep, I'm gonna use my video camera next time. Dude, this is why it's trial and error here. Like I said. But if I don't start, bro, you never figure out what you need to work on. Oops, I forgot about the TV. I started fading. Alright, so we're back. Oh, bro. I have to cancel the stream. Camera's not working with me today. Hmm? End the stream. It's only been 27 minutes.